Welcome to Mac
and Jack Talks NBA.
Hello everyone! In today's episode, we want to talk about two topics. The first one is who we believe are true contenders, and the second one, the divide between the Western and the Eastern Conference. So starting with our first topic, let's talk about who we believe are true contenders. I will talk about the East, and Jack will talk about the West. In the East, as of today, right now, the first three seeds are Philadelphia 76ers, and number 2 are the Brooklyn Nets, number 3 are the Milwaukee Bucks, and surprisingly, the two other teams I want to talk about are the Charlotte Hornets, are the 4th seed, and they are barely above 50% at 52.3%. And the Miami Heat are the 8th seed at 48%. And the reason why I brought up the Miami Heat is because the two teams that I believe are true Eastern Conference contenders and could actually have a chance of winning it all this season are, first, the Brooklyn Nets. They have 3 MVP players. James Harden is an MVP, runner-up MVP multiple times, probably the most of any player in recent history, and a scoring champion. Kevin Durant is a multiple-time scoring champion, like James Harden, and he is a 2-time Finals MVP when he was at the Golden State Warriors, and in my opinion, the most lethal and most dangerous and the best scorer since Michael Jordan. And they've also have a very talented scorer as well, Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving has a championship as well when he won it with LeBron James in Cleveland Cavalier, but he was not carried. He played a very important role. If you remember a few years back, from the right wing, he pulled up for a long three-pointer over Stephen Curry and essentially sealed the deal, hit the dagger, and won the Cleveland Cavaliers the Game 7 against the Golden State Warriors, coming back from 3-1 down, the first in NBA history, winning LeBron James his redemption, and winning the Cleveland Cavaliers, the first NBA championship ever in their history. The second team that I believe has a good chance of winning it all is the Miami Heat. They have essentially brought back most of their players since the bubble final run that they did. Eric Spoelstra is, in my opinion, one of the better coaches in the league right now, with a healthy Jimmy Butler, a healthy Bam Adebayo, a healthy Tyler Hero, and hopefully Goran Dragic was healthy again going into the playoffs. They are a very, very dangerous team. What do you think, Jack?
I totally agree with your perspective on the Brooklyn Nets and the Miami Heat being favorites towards the true title contention. I have doubts about the 76ers and the Milwaukee Bucks because for 76ers track record, we all know Doc Rivers is really too comfortable with leads, which leads to disasters. That when he gets too comfortable, he does not adjust, and he keeps running the same scheme. That way, then their offense gets too stale, so then people can find out the weakness, and then they'll exploit that weakness. For Milwaukee Bucks, I believe that their team is not as good as last year because when they traded for Drew Holiday, they sacrificed a bit too much of George Hill and Eric Bledsoe. Eric Bledsoe and George Hill at least give you 10 plus points per game. Drew Holiday is very good and is underrated. However, he does not cover up enough in terms of Eric Bledsoe and George Hill. And for Chris Middleton to become your second best player besides Giannis, who can't shoot at a very high percentage in high volumes and 3-point percentage, that's really not good. I think, as you said, they are missing a few pieces or so. And I don't even want to talk about the Charlotte Hornets, New York Knicks, and Atlanta Hawks because to me, they're just a joke, especially the Charlotte Hornets. And Miami Heat, I believe that they are really good because during this past trade deadline, they got Victor Oladipo and the former Sacramento Kings power forward, which I don't know how to pronounce his name because I don't want to butcher it. Uh, they only gave away Avery Bradley and Kelly Olynyk to get Victor Oladipo. I believe what that adds is you can implant him into the starting lineup or the off the bench, and he can give you like 15 points per game. And for the Sacramento's power forward guy, a European, he's a great stretch forward, which I believe that their team was lacking because what Jay Crowder's role in the last finals was, besides defending really well, was knocking down those open threes, which made them more of a threat because each of them can shoot besides Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, which when you have three shooters on the floor, and when you have also Goran Dragic, you can't stop that. For the West, the current first seed and the second seed are the Utah Jazz and Phoenix Suns. I believe those are dark horses or just they're just starting to scratch their surface in terms of their team's potential because Utah Jazz and the Phoenix Suns are not bad, but they have not gone too deep to prove anything yet. Nor is, I believe, Quinn Snyder is good enough to lead their team to the deep playoffs because you still have LeBron James standing your way. And Utah Jazz, they're more like regular season team like the 24 to 2015 Atlanta Hawks led by Mike Budenholzer. Yeah, they had a very good regular season record. I believe they got out in the Eastern semifinals against LeBron James, who wasn't even serious. He thought it was a joke, and then he just tumbled upon you like a big steam truck demolishing a house.
Yes, I remember in 2014 and 2015, the Atlanta Hawks, they were a 60-win regular season team. The Toronto Raptors were, I believe, 56-57 regular season team winning. And they were very, very good. It was the best regular season record they've ever had in franchise history. But in the Eastern Conference back then, the yeast runs through LeBron. That is simply the truth. In the last few years, when Indiana Pacers, led by Paul George, were the first seed, when the Atlanta Hawks had 4 All-Stars, with Mike Budenholzer, the head coach of the year, were the first seed, when DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, and Dwayne Casey is the head coach for the Toronto Raptors, were the first seed, when they met LeBron, what happened? They choked. LeBron James is so good and so demanding and so strong, he just destroys and picks apart your team. And when that happens, your lack of superstar, your lack of experience, your lack of challenge in the regular season, and the lack of grit that you have to face, doubt starts coming in within your team, and it all starts crumbling down.
Yeah, so back to why I believe that the Phoenix Suns aren't really true contenders, or because, yes, they got Chris Paul, but however, Chris Paul is generally shaky too in terms of going deep into the playoffs because he's easily injury prone. Devin Booker is very talented in the offensive side, but he does not have any much playoff experience, which can help you when it comes crunch time or when you're deep into the playoffs when the teams slow down and knows how to defend you more. And your third best player is DeAndre Ayton, a guy who can't even stretch the floor. So comes playoff time, you're really just standing in the pain. So what good are you good for? My West picks for the true NBA contentions are the LA Lakers because when you have a talent like Anthony Davis and LeBron James, you can easily get to the NBA Finals without a problem if you're healthy. Secondly, I believe that the Denver Nuggets are, in my perspective, are true contenders because of last year they made it to the Western Conference Finals, which they were very close to winning it. And they recently added Aaron Gordon, without sacrificing without sacrificing a lot. You only sacrifice Gary Harris, who is in and out and wasn't even healthy, and his 3-point percentage has dipped these past several seasons. And you also added Aaron Gordon, who can a guy who's 6'8" can possibly defend LeBron James. That's what I expect that when they got him for. That's what they want him to do. And you have Jokic, who has been playing like crazy in MVP mode. Unless Joel Embiid comes back quicker, and have a great stretch to explain why he should be the MVP. I believe this season's MVP should be Nikola Jokic. For the Clippers, on the stat sheet and the team roster, they look like they are contenders, but I am very iffy about Coach Lue as a coach because he doesn't have much track record to show whether he's a great coach or a bad coach. And not to mention, you have Paul George, a guy who's talked so much smack. Just comes playoff time, like when he stated when he was in the Oklahoma Thunders, when Damian Lillard 2 to 3 steps beyond the arc, nailed that shot in front of you, and he called it a bad shot. But now, after the All-Star game, he called it a good shot. That just comes to show you that in the playoffs, Paul George can disappears easily, and Kawhi's health is also a factor towards why they aren't true contenders yet. What are your perspectives, Mac?
In my opinion, I believe that the three teams that are true contenders are, you have to name LA Lakers. LeBron James and Anthony Davis are too talented, too experienced, too good that to always write them off. If they are healthy or even close to being very healthy, they are for sure in contention. The other two teams, I agree with you. Denver Nuggets. Jokic, in my opinion, is the number one favorite for being an MVP. He is playing out of his mind, averaging 27 points per game, 8.5 assists per game, 11 rebounds, shooting 57% and 43% from three, and hitting 87% from free throw. I have never seen a center pull these kind of numbers. These are insane numbers. You would probably have to go back to Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson era in the 90s where centers really dominate like that. But those guys didn't even have the high basketball IQ, the passing, the court vision of Skinny Jokic. Skinny Jokic is very, very dangerous and is a generational talent. I highly doubt would there be any other player that will fall that far down in the draft pick and have that much talent. He for sure is a steal. He's the definition of a steal. The Denver Nuggets also have a lot of talent. As you said, they picked up Aaron Gordon, a very athletic player, and didn't lose much. They have multiple players that could score, multiple players that score over 10 points per game, multiple players that could shoot three-pointers. And the third team would be the LA Clippers. I believe Tyronn Lue has the experience enough, having won one championship as a head coach, having won 2 championships when he was with the LA Lakers with Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant, and winning with LeBron James. I believe he has the experience. Kawhi Leonard will need load management. Kawhi Leonard will need to carry the team along with Paul George. Paul George needs to be more humble. He needs to play more relaxed, and he needs to make the shot and not disappear. Kawhi Leonard needs to return to his form of being healthy and a defensive beast. With that, I believe they could be true Similar to you, I believe the Utah Jazz and the Phoenix Suns do not have the experience, do not have the star power to really do damage. I believe they could make it to the second round and maybe even sneak into the conference finals depending on which team they face. But when they face these contender teams, when they faced a powerful Kawhi Leonard, a LeBron James, and Anthony Davis, a Jokic, I don't know, do they have the star, the experience to really hold it in together. The regular season is very different from the playoffs, as we all know. This is also why, going back to the Philadelphia 76ers, I don't believe they are true contenders. Yes, Joel Embiid is playing out of his mind, and when healthy, he is an MVP candidate as well. But with your second or third best player being Ben Simmons, when the game slows down, Ben still cannot shoot, and this is his fourth, fifth year in the league. I have a lot of concerns about that kid. You can't shoot. Your only offense is essentially running downhill, getting layups, finishing dunks. A lot of that's not going to happen in the playoffs when the game slows down, when people lock in on you and they know your game plan, they know your offense, they might even double you or trap you. That's not going to happen. And that's when your scoring goes down, that's when your demeanor goes down, that's when your energy goes down, and that's going to affect your passing, that's going to affect your defense, and that's going to affect the overall organization and team of the Philadelphia 76ers. And now, for the second topic, we want to talk about quickly the divide between the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. For at least from between years 5 to maybe 10 years now, the Eastern Conference has really been lacking in having good teams and strong real contenders compared to the Western Conference Finals. It's actually one of the main reasons why, and a doubt in LeBron James staying in the East and going to 9 straight finals. When he was in Miami Heat and Cleveland, the contenders were Indiana Pacers, Atlanta Hawks, Toronto Raptors, and these teams were not true contenders, and which is why LeBron James totally dismantled them and destroyed them and made his way easily into convincingly to the finals 9 straight times, which has never been done before. Probably you'll have to go back to Bill Russell to look at that. I wasn't born yet, so I wasn't sure. But if you look again in the 4th seed right now, the Charlotte Hornets are barely above 50%. They're at 52.3%. And the Knicks are the 5th seed at 51%. And if you go to the Western Conference, that puts you at the 8th seed. That actually puts you slightly below the 8th seed. The San Antonio Spurs are the 8th seed right now and at 52.4%. So you see that huge divide between the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, I believe I agree with you. For the Charlotte Hornets, Atlanta Hawks, and the New York Knicks to be the 4th, 5th, 6th seed, I think that's ridiculous because, yeah, Charlotte Hornets, they signed the addition of Gordon Hayward, but I don't really like that guy. But let's not talk about it. And LaMelo Ball being just flashy. Otherwise, he still needs to prove that he belongs in the league. Atlanta Hawks, they got coach Nate McMillan, but as you said, he hasn't gone too deep into the Eastern Conference Finals or anything, so I believe he's really lacking. Tom Thibodeau, he's a great coach, but the team is lacking a true superstar because if your best player is an all-star Julius Randle, that is not enough to get you into the Eastern Conference Final in comparison to the Miami Heat or even the Brooklyn Nets. So yeah, I think that's it for this week's episode where we talked about the true teams who are contenders and the disparity between the East and the West standings. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. This is the end of today's episode.
Please like, share with friends, and subscribe.